Other interesting cultural news, you have Bud Light being protested by David Williams. Now, David Williams is a famous sports balls player, and he is 60 years old. He compiled a record 18-4 with 214.1 innings for the 1998 Yankees team. Kidding. I know it's the Yankees because I watched the Seinfeld. Now, and he said that companies like Bud Light spent too much time involving themselves in politics and culture. Now, I do agree he's right in regard to the politics. In terms of the culture, what Bud Light should have done, obviously, is never partnered with someone who's, again, Dylan Mulvaney's average age of someone who watches Dylan Mulvaney is about 15 years old. It makes no sense to give this person a beer. Instead, be part of the culture they previously were. Football games, country music festivals, college dorms. I'm trying to think where else it would be. Stadiums. Those are, in terms of culturally consuming copious amounts of alcohol, those would be the top places. And you would see their logos there. So I think it makes sense to be involved in the culture, but the issue is they got involved in politics. And not every time, but I'd say most of the time getting involved in politics results in a net decrease in sales. Because even if you gain some sales on people on one side of the political aisle, you are alienated. I would argue you would alienate a same or greater than percentage of people on the other side of the political aisle. Or in the case of Bud Light, they alienated everyone. Because again, they had this controversial spokesperson or brand ambassador, whatever you want to call it. They alienated people who are traditionally conservative. But then you also had people in the middle who they just want to have a beer. They don't want to have a conversation about politics, so you alienated them. And then in terms of alienating people politically on the left, you had Bud Light where they didn't, and again, this is a quote by a bar owner, they didn't, quote unquote, stand by Dylan Mulvaney. So when the controversy broke, they didn't come out and say, hey, we are proud to be with this person, have them represent our product. Because they did not do that, they thereby alienated the left, as well as the LGBT community. You had a bar owner in Illinois, where it's a holding company of many bars in Illinois, because they have many gay bars in Chicago, and they said they actually dropped all Anheuser-Busch products specifically because the company didn't, quote unquote, stick with Dylan. So Bud Light, somehow, through their business blunder of the century, they offended everyone politically. Now, don't get me wrong, they still have 70% of their sales compared to the same fiscal period or time period last year, but still losing 30% of their sales is a huge dent. And they didn't increase their sales one iota. So that case was actually the worst of both worlds. So I do agree with Mr. Wells in regard to you don't want to get involved in politics unless you're a political talk show or you make products specifically for a category that's overwhelmingly part of a political group, so to say. Now, David Hill continued to say when he was returning to the Yankee Stadium for their annual Old Timers Day, which apparently is a two-time World Series champion. So he's got quite the credentials. Though, can he drive a stick shift? That's what I want to know. But nevertheless, he go down to say, quote, "We're living in a different world." And actually said that actually taped over the Nike logo on his jersey, which Nike used to be less controversial, well, with the exception of Vietnamese assembly line and sweatshops, but you would argue that if you're making athletic gear, you want to sweat and you make it, you know it works. But nevertheless, Nike got involved in politics when they started to give away a bra to a biological man known as Dylan Mulvaney, who wears women's clothes. And again, in terms of the transgender community, you talk with some of them, some of them disowned Dylan because Dylan never got the surgery or took the drugs. So even within that community, there's debate as well. So this is a fascinating cultural phenomenon. But it's one of those instances where Nike was giving this brand apparel to this person, and that became a political thing. Now, you could also argue with the sales figures. I don't know if they increased their sales proportionally to the amount of sales they lost. I haven't looked into that too deep. Culturally speaking, there wasn't as much as a backlash. I think because fashion is are traditionally a little bit more unusual, so to say. And also, beer, you see much more of a quick sales correlation. People who consume beer usually buy it when they go to the grocery store once a week or every other week. Whereas clothing you buy once every 6 years. I mean, buy a suit once and it'll just last forever if you take care of it appropriately. Now, he also goes on to say, quote, this is per the Atlantic, he says, oh wow, he actually cut the jersey out. He says, "I hate Nike. They're quote unquote woke." So if you're a sports balls fan, will this further fuel the Bud Light boycott? It's certainly not good for the brand. There are a lot of people who love athletes. There are people who worship the Yankees. They're one of the most successful teams of all time. Only slightly more successful than, the Cubs. That's a joke because the Cubs, like the city of Chicago, are traditionally not very successful. They'll be good next year, though, like the Bears. That's what we're told. They'll be good next year. I'm sure. Sure. You keep telling me that. Let's just say I'm not putting any money on it, but we shall see. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of September, so if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, taking the time to like and comment greatly help out the video with the algorithm. Feedback is always appreciated. Love hearing about your experiences, how you can make the show better together. Also, lastly, don't forget to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.